I, uh, if you didn't know, the reason I'm doing this tonight on a normal Friday, I actually spent the past week at the Democratic National Convention. I had applied months and months and months ago to get a media pass, and they actually gave me one. Like, I got to go there. I got to wander around, go to caucus meetings. I got to be in the United Center when they were doing all the nightly events. And I figured I would share just a few stories with you just to give you a sense of what the week was like. And if you have any questions, I'll scroll through the comments because there's no news story or anything regarding this. But a couple things I found interesting. One was there was an exhibition hall in McCormick Place, which is where they were gathering before the nightly events. So when I was wandering the exhibition hall, there was one table dedicated to secular elected officials. I wanted to show you that because it looks awesome. It's here we go. This is the table they had in the hall where politicians were wandering, guests were wandering, and you could see from the sign there, breaking the taboo, atheists and humanists in elected office. That's the Center for Free Thought Equality's table. You see a couple people behind there who were basically introducing themselves to anyone who was interested in information, telling them if they were a candidate or an official, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with being an openly non-religious person in public office. And anecdotally, what they told me is that many people stop by their table and, I mean, pleasantly surprised to know that a group like this existed. This particular group, Center for Free Thought Equality, that's like the political arm of the American Humanist Association. And they were so excited to know, oh, it's not just me, which is such a wonderful response to get rather than, oh no, why are you here? You're making us look bad. So that was awesome. I know the people who were manning the table behind it. They were awesome to be there, be the face that these candidates saw when they came to the table to learn more. So I love that. I hope they do more events like this. I hope more candidates come out soon as openly non-religious. And next week on Friday, when I do this live stream, hopefully I can share with you an updated list of every openly non-religious politician who will be on the ballot this November. So I look forward to sharing that with you. So that is one thing I wanted to share. This was also amusing. This is just a random story for you. In the United Center, there was a dedicated area for the press, and that is the part I was limited to. It's like in the upper tier, kind of nosebleed seats in the United Center. And, I was there by myself. I'm just trying to look for a place where I can plug in a computer to do some work and, hopefully get something like a decent seat, though all the seats were not that great for the media. However, I knew that, if this is a 4-5 hour event, at some point I'm going to want to get some food. At some point I would like to go to the bathroom or something. But in order to do that, I don't want to leave my seat, especially when the bigger name speakers are on stage, because I'm afraid I'm not going to get my seat back. And so I figured, okay, all I got to do is make a new friend. I'll sit somewhere, someone will sit near me, I will chat with them, we will become besties, and then I will feel safe enough that I can leave my shit on the floor and then go if I need to leave for a couple of minutes. So I'm not going to tell you this person's name, but I ended up sitting next to one person. We started small talking, and it's interesting. We both write on a platform owned by Substack and whatnot, but I don't know who this person is. So we're just chatting about that. Very nice. We become good friends very quickly, right? To the point where we're sharing a plug, an outlet, all as well. And as the course of the night goes on, this is last night, the final night when Kamala Harris is on stage. So there's more interest in the last night of the convention. So I got there early where I was talking to this person, but the area we were in filled up really quickly. So at some point, it's jam-packed. They're not even close to the Kamala Harris portion of the night where she's speaking. But I realized, okay, I need to get out of here for a few minutes. But don't worry, I have this person next to me I can trust with my stuff. It's all good. And so I'd say, "Hey, can I leave for a few minutes?" She says, "Yeah, you're fine. I'm looking after your stuff." So good. That's how close I became to this person, right? Like the bond was there that you form with strangers in a situation like that. So I told her, I write about politics and religion and all that. We traded information about what websites, we write on, but I didn't get a chance to really look at her page or anything like that until I got back home. And I realized uh as we were talking, she made a reference to someone's name. Like, this is another writer I'm in correspondence with. We chat a bunch. And I'm like, oh, in my mind, I was thinking, I know that person's name. That is not a person I really enjoy reading. I think that person is a conspiracy theorist. Interesting. And then we moved on to a different conversation. So at home, I get home that night. It's super late at night. I'm very tired today. And then I was like, oh, yeah, my new friend. I should look up her website because I have not, I have no idea what she actually writes about. I know she was working on stuff while we were at the center. And I look it up and I realized, oh no, this person is about as I wouldn't say mega, but this person is very much someone I would probably refer to as a conspiracy theorist. It was like, oh no, that was my bestie all night. But that's the sort of thing that happens when you're in a little media pack with random people. So that was amusing. Here's another story. One thing I was able to bear witness to is that there was a panel on the threat of Christian nationalism. This wasn't on TV. This was in the caucus areas in the daytime. But check out this picture because here we go. This gives you a sense of who's there. I'm sorry the picture isn't clear, but it's as close as they would allow me to get with my phone. But speaking on from right to left, like right here, this guy, that's Emmanuel Cleaver. He's a congressman who's super religious, but understands the threat of Christian nationalism. Right over here next to him, you have Jamie Raskin, who I think is looking at me right there. But he's the guy who's on TV all the time. He led the first impeachment against Donald Trump, one of the founders of the Congressional Free Thought Caucus. Awesome guy. Next to him, Jared Huffman, only openly humanist member of Congress. They got 3 members of Congress on this panel to talk about the threat of Christian nationalism, which is bonkers. Like, I remember a time not that long ago when Democrats would have been really afraid to say anything critical of Christianity, even when it's well deserved, because they didn't want their opponents ever claiming this person is anti-religious or anti-Christian. And yet Project 2025 has become such a big deal, and white Christian nationalism has become such a big deal, that here we have politicians who are not afraid to call out the threat for what it is. And I found that really, I mean, heartwarming is the wrong word, but like, I'm proud of them. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad they're not afraid to do it. Next to them, you had an academic author who has written about white Christian nationalism. And then on the far left, sitting down, is Catherine Stewart, who's the moderator of this panel, who's written so many amazing books about the threat of Christian nationalism, has written articles for the New York Times about it. And the person speaking at the podium there is Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, who just popped in. He knew the caucus was going on. He decided to say a few words. And what are we going to do? Say no? The reason I wanted to share that is, again, there was a time not that long ago when Democrats as a party would not have discussed anything about religion. They would have just talked faith the whole way through. Faith is good. Christianity is good. Criticism of Christianity would never be okay. And any sort of open outreach to non-religious people would not happen because they wouldn't want to be tainted with that. And the fact that I didn't hear the word atheist very much over the week. I didn't hear them make any outreach to secular people from the party itself. However, it's kind of amazing the way when they talk about reproductive rights and they talk about LGBTQ rights, we know who the opponents are on that. It's conservative Christians by and large, conservative Catholics. And the fact that they don't need to be afraid of working with us because we all have a shared opponent in those fights. Democrats are saying, no, we're the ones with values. We're the ones who care about these issues. We care about people who may not, have the same lives we do, but we want to fight for their rights. And the threat trying to stop that is white Christian nationalism. It's Project 2025. It's people who think their religious beliefs ought to become law. And one of the hard things about the Democratic Party is when you have a big tent, you have to be all things to all people, which means no one complains about Democrats more than other Democrats. Whereas Republicans, they're only catering to conservative Christians. They don't give a damn about anybody else, so they only speak that language. And the fact that they were talking about it, embracing humanism, talking about how we want to form alliances with people of various religious groups, I think that's a really positive step. So I love the fact that this was an interfaith caucus meeting where this was happening, but interfaith in this case meant including humanists, including the chairs of the Free Thought Caucus. So very, very good to see. By the way, I did get to not chat, but I did get to see Jamie Raskin outside the hall afterwards, and it's just these people I only see on TV, and seeing them in the flesh is kind of cool. Got to talk a little bit with Jared Huffman right there. As someone, I feel like I've written so much about the guy over the past several years because he's openly humanist and because he started the Free Thought Caucus. So being able to talk to him, he said nice words about what I write. That meant a lot as well. So it was an awesome experience to be there. One last thing I will say, and then I'll wrap this part up. One thing they had during the proceedings on TV that you might have seen if you watched the convention, of course you saw the big speeches on TV. What they also had at the beginning and end of all those sessions at the United Center, you had the opening invocation, you had a closing benediction, and all of those, they might have had Christians, Muslims, Jews, but all Abrahamic religions. I don't recall them having anyone outside those faiths. They definitely did not have anyone of no faith, even though there are like humanist chaplains out there. And what was a little troubling about that is the Democrats did something really interesting this whole week, which is that they found ways to take the traditional formula of what you need at a convention. For example, the roll call vote, where every state says we are officially pledging this many delegates to Kamala Harris. And in the past, if you look at videos online, that's a very boring section of the evening. It takes like 2 hours. Every state says some cheesy stuff about how awesome their state is and then says we give this many delegates to this person. And this year, you may have seen the video from Georgia when they announced when they announced Georgia, the rapper Little John does a bit of his famous song, and they had a DJ playing music for every state. It was so cool. I thought I was going to get a break to go get dinner, and then they started that thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to leave. I want to watch this whole thing sitting in the top of the arena. So I watched the whole thing. It was fantastic. But that's what I mean. They did a really good job of taking boring parts of the convention and making them interesting and putting their own spin on it. It was great. And yet, when it came to the invocation and benediction, they only chose the traditional Christian or Abrahamic faiths. They were all boring. I mean, I don't know if anyone said anything memorable, but I'll tell you, no one inside the stadium was listening to what they were saying. Certainly, I didn't hear a discussion about any of those prayers outside the arena. And what I don't get is why they don't make that more interesting, because you could do opening words of wisdom. You could have people give like 45-second TED Talks about how to inspire people and get new voices on that stage who they may not get TV time, but in the arena, they're going to get some attention. I don't know why they don't do that. They found a way to make everything else so interesting and novel, and yet they took this theoretically important and traditional part of the ceremony and just kept it as boring as usual. I don't know why they did that. And if you're going to do that, why not make it as inclusive as the party? There was a lot of talk about how come they don't have any Palestinian people on stage. They were clamoring to talk about Gaza and what the Democratic Party could do. They didn't do that either. There were so many voices that could have been heard that were not heard. And missed opportunity all around. I hope that's one of the things they fix in the future. I'm just It was an interesting week. I'm telling you, as someone who is a political nerd, as someone who watches this stuff for fun, like I would watch the convention in college because I was just intrigued by it. And if you ask me my idea of what I like to binge watch on the weekends, it's like MSNBC primetime. It's very sad. But to be able to see it in person and to meet the people that I only hear about or write about or sometimes talk to because I need a quotation for an article, it was very exciting to see them in person and know I am surrounded by people who feel the same way I do about all that stuff. So that was very cool. If there are any questions about that, I'm happy. I'm just scrolling through to check out stuff. Um, let's see what people have here. Just before I move on to the new thing, apologies if I miss anything that is being said here. Did I run into Mike the Pillow Weirdo or that other guy, Nick Fuentes? I don't know if Fuentes was there. I didn't see any word that he was there. I did not run into the Pillow Dude, sans mustache, though I did see pictures of him there. There were, you know what? There were walking through the United Center. There are so many, I mean, famous people walking around because everyone's doing their own thing there. And I so wanted to stop and talk to so many people that I just caught a glimpse of, but also I don't want to get in the way of doing whatever it is they're doing. I saw like Pramila Jayapal, who's the head of the Progressive Caucus, giving an interview to people. And I'm like, I want to say hello from one brown person to another. And I was like, nope, that's inappropriate. Can't do that. Thank you for that donation. I'm worshiping Satan tonight in Atlanta. Megadeth. Rock. Have fun.